Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 19 of the manga, which is called, let me just see here, Puppets. So, we're at a really interesting point in the series now where we're kind of, I suppose prior to this chapter, really waiting to see what exactly they're doing here. They've got this kind of empty kind of coffin thing, they're talking about a vessel. We know about Kara, but we don't know a lot about them. There's this kind of ninja tech, we're kind of focusing on it a lot as a big kind of world building point. But we're not necessarily seeing exactly where everything's leading towards. And while I think this chapter overall helps us to get to an interesting point and potentially gives us an insight into where the future of the series could go, it very much just feels like very similar to the other chapters of just like, oh, the fight didn't happen this chapter, it's going to happen next chapter. Please have it happen next chapter, finally. But anyway, so we get them obviously leaving the ninja tech place with obviously our new Inazuka character plus Sumire, and we get that they're going to transport some ninja tech back, and basically just here we have you know, the idea of Katasuke is coming with them as their kind of ninja tech jonin, and he's wearing this kind of crazy power suit, and this obviously comes into play much later on, but the idea is that this is his kind of big thing. He's going to test this. He's modified it for use in combat. He explains that it's a power suit originally meant for physical therapy and rehabilitation, and this is going to be pretty notable as the chapter goes on. And we see that just as Sarada prepares to leave Boruto, and she just goes and asks Sarada, basically, she says, hey, is Boruto pretty popular with girls? And she's just like, I don't know, he seems to get along quickly with anyone. And then she asks, you know, what about you, Sarada? Do you like him? Boruto, that is? And she just says, huh, where'd that come from? As if. And she's just like, I see. Well, I do. And it's just kind of a moment of just like, whoa, what? Because this is, and she kind of winks at Sarada when she says this, and Sarada then has to kind of run off to join the rest of the group, and they just say goodbye to each other. But it's this kind of moment that has really kind of put Sarada on edge to just hear Sumire talking like that, because it is a little bit different than kind of what we know of her. Of course, there's a huge gap between Sumire as we know her now, where she's just become a genin, and here as you know, a kind of, you know, tuning, but focusing more on ninja tech. So obviously she gets good character development between here and now to become a slightly different character while still being herself. And obviously between here and then she has decided that she actually really likes Boruto. And so we're starting to, I suppose, properly get into the shipping aspect of this kind of series a little bit more here. With Sumire just directly admitting here that she likes Boruto and kind of prompting Sarada to think about that question. That's the real takeaway here of just basically putting that in her head of just like, how do you feel about Boruto in that way? And she obviously gives her usual answer of just like, no, he's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Without revealing the fact that I think deep down Sarada cares about Boruto as a friend, but how much beyond that is obviously up in the air. The fact that Sarada's a bit uncomfortable when this print comes up suggests that there perhaps is something there, because I do think Sarada had a bit of a notable reaction when Boruto finally kind of came up and said to her, you know, like, your dream is to become Hokage, I'll be the one who kind of supports you and kind of protects you along the way for that. And I think that surprised her, and we know that they've had moments where there is a kind of better dynamic between them than just them kind of annoying each other. So there's that, and we see that that's a big kind of aspect of kind of what's going on in, like, with Sarada in this early stages of the chapter. Is just like, whoa, she's kind of on edge about this. She keeps looking back at Sumire, and Sumire's all happy, and Sarada's just kind of like, you see a kind of bead of sweat that like, this has made her fairly uncomfortable to bring this up. So it didn't seem to be the rest of the fans' like most popular part of the chapter, but I actually quite like it. If they're going to be a little bit more direct about the shipping in the show, I'm actually kind of fine with that, because in Naruto it always felt like a very much a background thing that wasn't really focused on, whereas this could actually be quite interesting. But anyway, they're sent off on their mission. Of course, they have to leave quickly anyway because they were sent to investigate what's up with Konohamaru at the airship. They arrive and find a bunch of puppets outside it, and they kind of, you know, move in to investigate. And the gist of what happens here is that they get into a fight with the puppets. The puppets activate automatically, and they're kind of wondering, like, is this someone who's like a puppet master using that jutsu? But then Katasuke quickly figures out that no, they're actually kind of autonomous. They're like robots, and they just activate in response to something. And the only way that they're able to defeat them, because they're, you know, kind of invulnerable to most jutsu, is that Katasuke basically steps in front of all their attacks and absorbs it with his suit. And then he absorbs it for so long that they basically overheat themselves trying to, you know, attack them with jutsu. So the idea is that they're used to quick attacks, but sustained attacks. And obviously they weren't programmed to like shut off the second they kind of overheat. So they overheat, and then while they're overheated, they manage to kind of deactivate them all on the ground. Katasuke, prior to this, had gone in to check the vessel, and he seems to know kind of roughly what it is, but notes that you know, it's empty once again, and Konohamaru is nowhere to be seen. Ao is nowhere to be seen. A lot of the stuff we kind of expected isn't really present as such here, in that, like, we don't get Ao versus Konohamaru. We don't get Konohamaru versus a member of Kara. We get Konohamaru right at the end of the chapter, and a different setup for a fight to happen basically next time out. So a lot of very interesting things are kind of happening in the chapter. The fight I don't think is particularly interesting. I think the better point that is brought up here is the fact that, okay, here's this ninja tech once again being used as a countermeasure against ninja, and doing quite well against them, because Boruto, Mitsuki, and Sarada all use quite powerful jutsu, and it just knocks the puppets down and makes them get back up. And there's no Sarada uses you know, fireball jutsu, which is pretty cool. We get to see her use a fire jutsu for the first time, probably implying that at some point in between series or something like that, Sarada learned this. And now that obviously Sasuke is back, they can use any opportunity basically in the anime right now to have him come in and just teach her this one thing. That's a very important, I suppose, passing on of the torch for Uchiha clan members of just learning the fireball jutsu. But anyway, at some point in the chapter, it is brought up, this idea of, wait, how does anyone else have access to this level of ninja tech? Konoha is meant to be pretty much the only place where ninja tech on this level is being properly researched and made. And this is where they bring back in the idea that Katasuke, during the events of the Boruto movie, he was possessed during that time. The reason he was acting so differently than the way he is now is because he was effectively being controlled as a puppet and leaked the ninja tech, and that kind of, in a way, forced him to act in the way that he did by, like, leaking that tech. And so he kind of blames himself in a way for this tech coming out and being used against ninja of his village. And it's set up as this kind of pretty big kind of thing for Katasuki, the fact that he feels the need to kind of protect, you know, Boruto's team by stepping in front of all of these things and blocking the attack. And while he does it and doesn't really take any damage, they seem to be almost building up this idea that at some point we may see him make a big sacrifice as to make amends for what he did, in terms of he's kind of responsible for other nations and potentially Kara having access to this bad ninja tech. So that's a very interesting point, that they're going so heavy on the ninja tech in the series. Obviously here's the page here, page 34. I never thought we'd end up fighting against ninja tech. I thought that at the current moment, ninja tech was the private study of Konoha village. And we see Ibiki, I believe it is. But apparently you were being manipulated under control of someone's genjutsu, and during that time nearly all our information on ninja tech was leaked. But it's obviously at that point we find out that the dog Chimaru, who's Akita's dog, kind of temporarily comes with them. He finds Konohamaru's kunai and leads them to the kind of cave where he is. And we see that Konohamaru is actually fine. It looks like he's got a little bit of damage, that he's been in a fight, but his kind of squad mate is injured, but will also be all right. And so they reunite with Konohamaru in the cave, and it's a pretty cool moment of just, you know, Konohamaru seeing his team kind of arrive back with him, and just kind of relays to them the exact same thing of just, he went into the container ship, it was empty when he went in, but he managed to extract data from the kind of ninja tech, you know, data unit in it. So it's in this kind of scroll, he hands it over, and they're going to analyze it back at the village. So this is probably going to be a very important thing of, once we finally get back, or if we get back with that data, what is on that, and that's probably how we're going to get the reveal of what the vessel is, and some of the nature of what's really going on around this airship, which I think they made a point of noting in the last chapter, that how is there some other group that is not one of the main nations that knows how to make an airship of this scale? How has that gone unnoticed by any of the nations, that there's somewhere big enough to make an airship like this? So there's a lot of questions going on here, but it's at this point Ao arrives at the entrance to the cave, and this is a big shocking moment because he's clearly their enemy here. Boruto was on friendly terms with him last time they met, and we obviously get the full reveal of him here through Konohamaru, in that there's this little moment of just like, they think you'd still recognize me, and he just says he's known as the Blade, which keeps the 4th Mizukage. I believe that's a mistake. I think some people confirmed that they know it's a mistake, it's actually meant to be 5th, or something like that. The Byakugan killer Aoi, however you want to pronounce his name. Your name was once written in gold letters in Konoha's bingo book, so there's no way I wouldn't know about you. And obviously, like, this has a bit of a connection to Boruto because, like, his mother is a Hyuga clan member, his grandfather is in the Hyuga clan, his sister has the Byakugan, and so on. So, you know, this is a pretty notable thing to see, to find out that someone else seemingly has the Byakugan. Yeah, we get the idea, but from my understanding, he'd retired a long time ago, which immediately presents the question of, like, this means that basically the world knew that he survived the attack during the Ninja War, somehow, but that they weren't aware of the nature of how he survived the attack. So there's that's an interesting one, in that he seemed to just, like, once it was revealed that he was back and he'd recovered, he just announced his retirement, and that's all anyone knows about him, without knowing the full scope that he's more or less been working for Kara as one of their agents. And he asks the group in here, the contents of that box, where are they? As he takes out what looks to be a minigun and just kind of points it at them. So, you know, Konohamaru, of course, defends that, like, you know, we don't know what this is, but we're not going to give you any of the information from our mission, especially because you're not a ninja anymore. Why should I? And he points it at them and is basically saying, you know, you'll stay silent forever then. And the fight is about to begin. So, interesting enough way to end the chapter. It's going to be very interesting to see what power level Aoi has now that he has so many injuries. Does he even have the Byakugan anymore? But how powerful is this ninja tech, and how are they going to counter this ninja tech? This creates a very interesting dynamic in battles going forward, in that right now a lot of the ninja tech has just been like, oh, I've absorbed your jutsu and fired it back at you, which is similar to powers we've seen before. But this is just kind of like, he's got like a minigun. That's going to be cool to see what exactly it fires. Is it chakra powered, or is it some sort of a laser cannon? Is it, does it fire bullets? We'll have to wait and see. It doesn't look like it's a minigun that has like a huge kind of string of bullets hanging off it. So it realistically is powered probably by chakra or something like that. So we'll see exactly how he goes about using it, and just what his power level is. And then, of everyone present, Konohamaru, you'd have to say, is the most powerful member of the group left, because his partner seems to be out of action. Katsusuke is there, and it feels like if anything big is going to happen, it's probably going to be him doing something if Konohamaru potentially gets overwhelmed. We could see him making some sort of a big sacrifice, or doing something to really, you know, prompt something, because I do think it would be a big thing in the series for Boruto if Katsusuke kind of died on a mission, because it would be the first kind of big event for the group really to happen on a mission, to just see someone be killed like this. And also the fact that this was someone Boruto had this big kind of turnaround arc with. What would that mean for how Boruto views ninja tech? That like, here's someone who devoted his life to ninja tech, but has just kind of maybe been killed by ninja tech. That's, I think, definitely an interesting dynamic. And then, how big of a role do Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki play in the fight against Aoi? I feel you should use this as a big kind of fight for Konohamaru and establishing how powerful he is at this point. In that, I don't think we've seen quite enough of him, but he is like a Jonin. He feel like he's basically positioned as, like, in a way, the Kakashi of this, you know, series. In that, that's the position he's in. He's the team captain for the main character's team. So he's in that position. They need to treat him like that, in that here is someone who is a Saratobi, so has their specific jutsu and so on, but has also been trained by Naruto, so he has some of Naruto's jutsu as well. And then I assume he probably has some, you know, specific things himself that that maybe we don't know about yet. And that's what's going to be so interesting to see when Konohamaru actually fights. And then, especially like ninja tech, like he could always use a little bit of ninja tech himself to help himself out. But I definitely think a big thing here is going to be, for sure, Konohamaru in action. Will he use like a summoning jutsu? That'd be a cool thing if he has like a frog kind of toad summoning jutsu. That'd be fun to see. But yeah, it's definitely a cool setup. Just a cool minigun. Here's the fight that we've kind of been waiting for, and it's very unexpected that it's like a gun he's pointing at them. And then, of course, the setup of like, here's this data that is going to be this big thing, but Aoi doesn't know that they don't have the vessel, so the vessel is still out there, but they have information that could reveal what it is. So that's cool enough. I don't think the chapter impressed me that much. I thought it was overall good because it did present the ninja tools as being a much bigger thing that they've now kind of leaked out to the wider world. And while perhaps I don't expect like just every single nation to suddenly have the same level of ninja tech as everyone else, it feels like this is basically saying that Kara, these other kind of rebel groups separate from the nations, they will have this ninja tech, and Kara is probably the big thing, in that it sort of feels like they're maybe going down a road where it's Kara using ninja tech to kind of destabilize the world somehow. Kind of like the Akatsuki with the tail beasts, but with using ninja tech in that place. And I think I saw somewhere some sort of a theory where like maybe this is how ultimately Konoha is destroyed in the future, when we have that Kawaki versus Boruto scene of just maybe it's ninja tech that leads to all of this. But I think that's maybe a bit too far into the future. Right now, this is still the early stages. Maybe thinking that far ahead isn't the best idea, but we'll see what exactly happens. So I think that's basically all I want to say about this. I suppose very quickly on the shipping stuff from the start. I do think that is something we will probably see going forward. I don't expect them to suddenly just jump into like, oh, everyone's like talking about shipping and so on. But I think what this will probably do for Sarada is kind of plant the seed in her mind of just her thinking about this a little bit more. And maybe when she looks at what Boruto is doing now, begins to see that in a slightly different way. Maybe we'll see her view on him change a little bit from being quite like dismissive of him at times and kind of being, you know, oh, you're a nuisance, you know, I'm better than you type thing, and kind of being more kind of neutral with him. But also just that in her head questioning, do I like him in that way or what? Because I definitely don't think they're setting up some sort of a like jealousy thing with like Sumire and Sarada. I do think it was almost like Sumire kind of like in her way kind of saying like, Sarada, like, I know you sort of like him, so just think about it and really figure out if you do or not, type thing. So I like that little setup in that it kind of in a way feels like, oh, for the first time we're probably, you know, in the manga establishing shipping as like a thing. Let's see where this goes. Let's see, do they focus on it a bit more and a bit more focused than Naruto, original Naruto. But yeah, that's been the chapter review. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the chapter, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.